but we'll just dive right in. We're going to go ahead and get started with the updates. So three big updates that I want to share with you all since our last webinar are the student overview, which is a new view in the dashboard, lesson cards, and a feedback button. So these are all highlights within our dashboard. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up that dashboard for you all and first show you the student overview. So one request that we've had quite often from the districts and schools that we work with is that they want a one-page kind of printable view of the student's information. So when you log into your dashboard now, you can click on your class. And if you want to take a look at a student and really track their data through the dashboard and see what kind of progress they've made, like my friend Charlie here, you can select that student from your class and it's going to take you to a brand new overview. Now in this overview, I can look at the data using any of the date ranges that I can in the rest of the dashboard. So today, last 7 days, 30, custom date range, or even the current school year. I'm going to keep it at 30 for right now. So we can see their average minutes per week for the time period that I select, as well as their lessons completed. If there are any alerts for that student, both things that we want to celebrate and things that we want to take a look at, Dreambox will let you know in the right-hand side of the screen here. As I scroll down the page, I can also see a student's proficiency and growth. Now, my friend Charlie is a kindergartner who doesn't work quite a bit in Dreambox, but I can see his proficiency and growth highlighted by the green bars and the arrows. That lets us know that he has completed some standards in Dreambox and also that he's growing as he's learning. Also on the right-hand side, I can see the standards that he's made progress in, as well as the standards that he's met. Now, a little word about that, that data is going to change based upon the time period that you select. So right now, he just made progress in one standard, but if I increase the time period, he might have made progress in actually more standards for this school year. I know that he's actively working on an assignment that I gave him on building up to 20 optimally, and he's currently working on a few lessons, building to 10 optimally, as well as angle measurement and rotation. Now this is a sample account, so we know that generally a kindergartner wouldn't work on these two very different assignments, but this is just a bit of a sample here. Now, what I love about this is that sometimes we do need to bring some data with us into meetings about our students. So this is something that is printable. So you see our print button on the right-hand side. So you can print these off, and when you're having conversations with your teacher peers or administrators, or even with parents, you've got this one-page printable view of exactly what a student has accomplished in Dreambox, which can really help enrich some of your important academic conversations about your students. So that's the first of our updates. And just let me know as we go along if you have questions about any of these updates or anything we talk about. The second update that we're pretty excited about is the update to our lesson cards. So in our last webinars, we talked about interpreting those cards. I'll show you one of them just as an example. So these cards tell us how long students have spent in lessons, the standards connected to the lessons. I can even click play demo or play lesson buttons on these lesson cards to see the lesson that Dreambox presented for the student. So we have some updates on these lesson cards. The first three you've actually probably seen before when you've looked through your students' activity feeds or your class's activity feeds. So we have a lesson group completed with demonstrated understanding. So this is really something to celebrate with those kids because that means that they work through multiple lessons. In fact, I can see 14 lessons here. I can also see if a student has completed a standard because I'll have a completed standard card. Or if a lesson has been completed, then we'll see the green check mark inside the green circle. This also happens to be an assigned lesson, which we'll get into later. But anytime you see this little blue notebook, that's our assignment icon, and that just lets you know that that was an assignment that you or maybe another teacher that works with that class made for the students in Dreambox. Now the last three are the ones we want to look out for, just as a reminder when students are working. The first one is this gray check mark. That means that the student did complete the lesson, but they had a little trouble and Dreambox decided we need to back the student up for the content for this particular standard or topic or Um, so that's one we want to look out for. Another one that I get really concerned about is a pause button. A pause button means the student clicked into the lesson and clicked back out before the lesson was completed. So remember that for these students, we want to remind them how important it is to always complete lessons. And if they're having trouble with the lesson, use that help button. Remember, that's going to be the question mark. Now, the last card is really brand new, and I'm excited about this one because it surfaces more information for you all as educators about when your students are struggling. So this one lets you know that a student may need attention. Now, a student may need attention on a lesson when they have worked on a lesson within that lesson group, and we've adapted them back 2 or 3 times, and the student is still struggling. We want to make sure that you all know when a student is struggling, so that's when you're going to see this lesson card appear with the orange text and as well as the triangle with an exclamation point in it. Now, if you see this, you can always click the play lesson button and say, have that student come and play with you and see if they're using the help or hint button, or maybe it's the manipulative getting in the way. That's a really great way to provide a little bit of intervention for those students who might need a little extra nudge when they're working in Dreambox. And it's a great way to also see, hey, this may be something that I need to also, when I'm thinking about instruction in my classroom, this student might need a little extra support. So those are our brand new lesson cards. For our last new feature, great question, Larissa. So her question is, does that mean they've completed the exact same lesson 5 times? This actually means that they've completed a lesson within this lesson group 5 different times, so different lessons. So this is an indication that we've backed them up quite a bit, and we just want to let you know, hey, this is an area where they're struggling. So thanks for that question, Larissa. That's awesome. So our last little update here is back in that Insight dashboard. And I want to point you to the send feedback button. A lot of the brand new updates that we've had in Dreambox have been because of educator feedback. We really want to continue to collect that, and so we decided we need a button for that. So if you have any great ideas for us on how we can improve Dreambox, or maybe there's something about a lesson you just feel, oh, it's not quite working right, and here's how I do it, we want to hear that from you. So do click on that send feedback button. It's going to give you a way to reach out to the Dreambox team and let us know that you have some great ideas for us. They read these things on a regular basis, so do know that if you send some feedback, it's definitely going to be, we're definitely going to listen. So one last thing I want to tell you that is coming is we are also going to have in the K-2 environment a way for students to track their lesson completion. We'll get more on that probably in our next webinar when that comes out, but I wanted to let you know that I know that lesson completion is on your mind when students are working in Dreambox, and we're going to give students the way to track that on themselves, which is going to be really powerful when we put students at the helm of their own learning. So, all right. Great question from Shannon. Any tips for pruning a student profile? It always cuts off parts so you can't see the whole page. That's a good question. So let's investigate that just a little bit. So it should be able to print in 1, sometimes 2 pages if the student, I've noticed, has quite a few lessons that they've opened. Let me take a look. So sometimes it does cut it off. I do see that, especially since the student has an alert. So it might print it in 2 pages. And I honestly haven't found a way to make it into 1, but that's a good idea. I'll see if we can find a way to. I'll talk to our development team about that. And Jamie, you know what? I would love for you, if you have Dreambox specific feedback, you can go ahead and contact us. We want to hear that feedback too. And it might be something for your IT folks too, but we always want to hear it. So great. I'm so glad to hear that students are enjoying Dreambox, and the coins can be really motivating, those stories too. I know we've had some students who are just so motivated to get the lessons done to hear more in the stories. So. And we're going to talk about some things, Jamie, with that kindergarten students, talking about how to really support them. Yeah. There'll be some way, I'll talk about some ways that we can still use it for some of the students in your instruction, even if maybe they're not ready to work independently, because that is a concern. They don't understand the concepts. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the concepts today too. All right, so we're going to go next into actually into a discussion about the pre-K and kindergarten. So this will kind of address some of what Jamie's talking about with students and readiness for Dreambox and the content too. So we're going to keep going.